Ok, allora possiamo partire. Quando vuoi, Sara.
Okay. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Sara Santoro, and I'm the first speaker of the proposition team. We are gathered here to debate regarding children taking or not taking part in talent shows. This house maintains that children taking part in talent show is detrimental for their own health. Indeed, our leading value is the protection of childhood and children. Our team line is based on three main pillars. After analyzing emotion, I'll discuss about children having a struggling youth because of talent show. After that, the second speaker of our team, Antonio Chiloiro, will talk about how talent show determine excessive anxiety in children due to participation in talent show. And finally, the third speaker of our team, Marco Pinca, will realize the assertions and bring new evidences. I want to start saying that children need models rather than critics, and this is the quote that we will base our assertions on. The motion says that the motion said that children should not be allowed to take part in talent show, and we thought that the main terms of this motion are children and talent show. According to the United Nations Conventions on the rights of the child, a child is defined as a human being below the age of 18 years old, unless under the law applicable to the child. It can be legally defined by a number inferior of 18 years old. But in general, a children is someone that is below the legal age of 18 years old. Then we have talent show, that is a contest, a competition where ordinary people can perform an act on stage, usually in order to try to win a prize for the best performance. And this is according to the Collins Dictionary. Now, the first thing that we want to underline is that children who perform in TV and in talent show have always a struggling youth. This is because they are exposed to a such much higher level of responsibility than other children, and they are not mature enough to deal with such a high pressure. Indeed, they are exposed to toxic environments such as they are exposed to sex, to drugs, to alcohol, and in a context that is too far from their normal life. Um, their normal life. Indeed, we strongly believe that children should not be exposed to these experiences that are adult experiences. So they should not spend their time practicing or worrying about how well or how bad they will be at performing. And the struggling youth also lead them to a lack of education because they are too focused on school, they are too focused on performing on the talent show that they forget about school. And so they are. This is another difference that it is because there is between children who likes to perform and children who don't perform. Um, Furthermore, there are children who act on stage likes to act like adults. So, for example, they want to put on makeup, they want to have nice dresses, nice clothes, and this leads to a sexualization of children. That is extremely wrong. We do not want our children to perform on stage and be sexualized while dancing, while singing. They have to focus on school, they have to focus on their future, because if they don't study, if they don't go to school, they will fall back into nothing, because the talent show lasts for how much? For a month, 2 months, but after that, if they are lucky, they could have success. But in most cases, only one third of children is able to have an artistic career after a talent show, but most of the children have that little spot of success, and after that they are completely forgotten by the world. And since they have not focused their sorry since they have not focused their attention on studies, they don't fall back into nothing. Sorry, I have a bit of sore throat. And an evidence that states that children children taking part in talent show is wrong is also an internal internal person that works into talent show, because Meghna Prem is the creative director of an Indian TV show. It involves children performing and acting on stage. And he, with his own eyes, he has met, has seen, and has told to children. He shared on Twitter that he agreed on the negative effect on kids' reality show. Indeed, he thought he has seen that children are exposed to a much high pressure, and they are sexualized by other adults that are present in the on the set of a talent show, and they stress themselves too much, and their parents stress them too much. Indeed, the second speaker of my team will talk about how there is an exploitation of children. The Meghna Prem has said that every morning he saw children traveling hours and hours for practicing, for studio rehearsal. But at the end of the day, these kids were basically distracted by everything. They didn't want to deal with anyone anymore because they were so stressed, so tired, and so sometimes also so sad about the much effort they were putting into talent show, that they didn't want to focus on anything else. Sometimes and sometimes they also fought with the parents, with other creative directors of the talent show, and becomes really irritable by other irritable because of this. And we have brought this evidence because we want to affirm again that that children should not take part in talent show, because, as the quote I said at the beginning of my assertions, they at such early stage of life, they do not need they need models. They need models that can be provided by school, rather than critics of judges that will only sexualize them, and that will not give them the right motivation to go on. So, to sum up everything, children should not take a part in talent show because they are exploited, they are sexualized, and they do not focus on school. And this is what we want to focus on. And yes, and thank you for your attention.
Ok, grazie a te Sara. Il tempo è stato di 7 minuti e 45 secondi. Ok, ora se l'altra giudice è pronta, possiamo chiamare Sara per il secondo discorso.
Sì, sono pronta.
Ok.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Francat, and I'm the first speaker of the team which is against the motion, which is this house would not allow children to take part in talent shows. As the first speaker, which is pro to the motion, said that the children who perform in these talent shows have then a very bad health, I may say that this is not like the main thing we want to focus on. Yes, that may be true. You said, like the first speaker said, that their model should be the school, but the problem is that it doesn't matter if the children or the child takes part in this talent show. It doesn't mean that the school is in any ways avoided. A child may be good at school, but still can take part in the talent show anyways. The lack of education isn't actually a problem because the child is taking his responsibilities, also being guided by his parents, which actually know what their child is doing. And so they actually are doing this talent show because they know that their child can do it, and the lack of education may not be a problem because if their child is good how it is in that moment, and yeah, so it can be done anyways. Then you also talked about sexualization, and I may be saying that that is a real problem, yes, but I think that it can be put aside regarding to what our real ideas on this theme are. Sexualization may be a problem, but there are other problems which are more important, like, for example, the psychic side of a child, so his mind, what it's thinking about. This may be bad for itself, but at the same time, it may be of a constructive, it may be a constructive activity. So as a counter model, you've been concentrating on something that may be put into a side, and now we can talk actually about something that is actually very important of these talent shows, which is the search for an engagement with the public and with the jury, and also a psychological growth based on what the capabilities of the child is. Another thing that I wanted to say is that you talked about Magnum Pram, making the example, but you specifically said reality show. We are talking about talent shows, not reality shows. Those are different things. And yeah, so we have to focus on talent shows, since the motion says this house would not allow children to take part in talent shows. So that was a thing like that. You also talked about luck, that the success is very little. But the thing is that it's not just luck. It's not only the only factor which influences the outcome of the performance of the child which is on the stage. So we as a team are going to present all the reasons why we believe our model is the best. And we are going to say that talent actually is, yes, it's very important because we're talking about talent shows, but another important aspect is the public engagement. And also that the child is in any ways protected from all the menaces you said before, because there's a contract behind all of this, which protects the child as any participant in a talent show. And so it is protected from any menace. The three arguments we'll be presenting are these ones. The appearance influences the performance. This is the first one. The second one is development of a psychological strength from the side of this child, which is taking part into the talent show. The third one is the protection of the child, because there's a contract behind all of this. Going back to the first point I made, so appearance influences the performance. This will be the argument I'll be talking about mostly. And this is actually, this explains that not always the most talented or even the most capable of all the participants in a talent ends up winning at the end, because there are other important factors such as the engagement with the public, then the charm that the child on the stage has, because he wants to conquer the public's eye or the jury's approval. These are all important factors that contribute into the final evaluation of the child or the performer on the stage. So these are factors which are almost like the key to win, and like mostly the public approval, because as for example, there are many talent shows as for example X Factor, in which the final result is declared from the public too. It's mostly basing on that. And as an example I've brought is the one of the Måneskin. We all know the famous group of the Måneskin, which plays itself, like the group plays itself as the second in the 11th edition of the X Factor in 2017. And they have been chosen by company like Sony Music, which was it's very important to record a piece. But why didn't this company choose the first place, so the winner of the competition? The Måneskin had engaged that much with the public. They remained in their memories that was very important as a factor for their victory. So in practical, the public as well as the jury are looking for those ones which can make the most stunning performance. So yes, they may be a problem, but they're all the problems that have been listed from the first speaker pro. They're all protected by the contract, anyways, and also that. Something very important is yes, the way you appear, but if you're there playing a classical instrument and the public doesn't understand what classical music is, it just wants you to be doing something which makes you interact with them. They want to be felt they want to be felt included in what you're doing, because they will be at the end doing a standing ovation maybe. So these are the factors which are very important together with talent, because children in this way can grow very secure of themselves. And why are these children actually participating in this talent show? Well, because they have done a preparation before, they know they can do it. Their parents know that they are actually good at doing what they do, and they are ready to do what they're going to experience, because the parents are actual the guardians which gesture their children's lives, and so they know the best for their child, for their children. And so they, if they're making them participating in the talent show, there's a reason. So to conclude, we've seen one of the most important traits that a child or participant part of a talent show should have is the ability to remain into the viewer's memories. And by doing so, it has to do memorable exhibition. And the parents shouldn't actually worry about on the impact that this talent show has on their child's mind, since they would be the ones which are the ones which define and decide whether he should be part of the show or not. Thank you for your attention.
Grazie a te. Io ho dovuto spegnere la telecamera perché non prende benissimo, quindi comunque ragazzi vi ricordo a entrambe le squadre di fare domande, ovviamente se lo ritenete necessario. Detto questo, ringraziamo Sara e passiamo la parola a Antonio, quando vuoi. Il tempo è stato, scusami, di 8 minuti e 7 secondi. Vai, puoi andare.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Antonio Chiloiro, and I'm the second speaker of the proposition team. And I will start my intervention confuting what has already been said by the first speaker of the opposition team. First of all, you said that we should put aside the reasonings that my teammate said before. Well, I think that you cannot just put aside things that you think are not important. For example, the sexualization of children is not something you can put aside and avoid talking about it. It is not fair for the children, since it is a really, really important issue to talk about. Then, you have talked about X factor, if I'm not wrong, but I think that X factor does not concern kids, children, but it involves adults, and therefore it is we should put aside this argument, since it is no, thank you, since this is not what we are talking about. Then you said that. Children involved in talent shows are protected by a contract, and this may be true, and you are right. But you have to remember that children cannot be protected from a psychological point of view, and this is the first topic that I will talk about then, and it is the problem of anxiety that is generated in children. And then you said that parents are guardians of these children, and this is also true. But you have to remember that there are some cases where parents exploit their children and their earnings from talent show and their fame. And I will talk about this later. First of all, I would like to start talking about how talent show can determine anxiety in children. In fact, since also adults suffer from stage fright during a performance on a stage in public, children that are more vulnerable than adults will suffer more of this stage fright. And since they are during their development, this anxiety will have an enormous impact on their growth. In fact, as established by the National Scientific Council in a paper published by the Harvard University, signed by many PhDs, long exposure to circumstances, to a long exposure to anxiety and fear can have huge consequences on the development of their brain. In fact, as studies show, for example, there is an hormone, which is the cortisol, that affects that is produced when we suffer from stress, and it may affect the development of some structures of the brain, such as the amygdala or the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex, that will create then problems as the children grows. It may create, for example, anxiety disorders. An example is the fear conditioning. Fear conditioning is a situation in which the children that has become adult may suffer from a situation. For example, he suffered when he was young, staying in front of the public, and therefore in the future he will not be able to stay in public anymore. And this is known as fear conditioning. So anxiety, you cannot prevent anxiety using a contract, and it may be true that they are protected, but the psychological development and the psychological impact that talent show have on children must be considered, and it is one of the most important issues. Then you have talked about the relationship with parents and the fact that they are guardians. Well, you're right, and sometimes talent shows can create a bond between children and parents. But however, we must remember that there are some cases in which since children start gaining fame from the talent show, and so they may start earning money, for example, parents, since they have the ability to use the money children have earned, parents can use those money for their reasons, for their interests. And for example, some parents may suffer from the fact that their children earn more than them. For example, Niharika Sarma, a Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery from the Institute of Medical Sciences, from the Indian Institute of Medical Sciences, said that talent shows are a sort of let's say zoo. Children are like objects. They are made to do things they are not aware of. They don't know anything about what they are doing, and they are laughed at by adults. They are obliged to do things they don't want to because they are not aware of what they are doing and the consequences of their action. And maybe in the future, when they will look at what they were doing when they were young, they will regret their actions, and they will be angry with their parents that allowed them to do this. In fact, most of the actions by most of the performance of children in talent shows are just a way of parents that are just they come from the parents that force them to do things. For example, parents force their children to do what they would have done in their past, but they were not able to do. And for example, another example is Mara Wilson, that was a former child star. I'm making a reasoning using an analogy. Mara Wilson was a former child star. She became famous, and she left then Hollywood at 13 years old, just because she didn't. Yes, please.
And did she started her career thanks to talent show or in general the water?
Thank you for your question. Yeah, I'm saying that I'm making I'm reasoning with an analogy. So she started her career as an actress, as a baby star, but the way of thinking is the same. If a child from a talent show earns fame, becomes famous, and then if the child becomes famous, then in the future he may regret this and get angry with the parents. And so parents in this case are not guardians, but they are the way why these children get anxious and suffer then in the future with anxiety disorders. Therefore, to sum up, the arguments, the assertions are the fact that talent shows just create anxiety in children and therefore growth problems, and the exploitation and the lack of awareness that children suffer due to the talent shows. Thank you for your attention.
Grazie a te, il tempo è stato di 7 minuti e 45 secondi. Ok, quando vuoi, Greta, puoi partire.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about the motion, this house, against the motion, this house shouldn't allow children to take part in talent shows. So first of all, I want to underline some of the points that the other team has made. First of all, they said that talent shows cause anxiety and that, for example, can bring to fear conditioning. So these problems due to psychological impacts, negative psychological impacts brought by talent shows. Well, we think that without any doubt, sometimes children can be overwhelmed because they have to perform with a big audience, and so they are fragile. But we want to ask, we agree young minds should be protected, but it's eliminating the talent shows that exist for many years that we solved the problem. Well, we don't think this is the solution. Well, for example, taking into account the anxiety or the psychological impacts, we should do some psychological tests to understand if or have a psychiatric on call to deal with the problems of anxiety. So children could show their talent, but however, be helped by a specialist who can solve their problems. Then you talked about the parents exploiting, no thank you. Parents exploiting their children because we think that sometimes it can happen, but we don't think that eliminating the talent shows is the solution. One solution that we propose is instead to maintain our status quo, however, modifying some contracts. For example, the solutions can be make a psychological test also to parents and to understand if they are ready to prepare their children for the outcome anyway, whatever the outcome is. So if they succeed or if they fail, if they are ready to face it and to help their children. To avoid this exploitation of their children's skills. Then we, now that I've finished, another thing that the other team has said is the education. So sometimes with the talent shows, maybe the education can't be done because there is no many time left. But we think that one solution to this problem is, for example, restricting the number of hours the children spend on talent shows, so they can just show off their talent, but they are not engaged too much and they can continue their life. Now that I've finished my computation, I will pass to resume what my mate said. Yes, please.
You've said that the hours of children that should be spent on talent show should be restricted. But my question is, don't you think that the training part of the children, that is the main part that distracts the children from school, cannot be restricted because the children need the same training for performing?
So first of all, we needed to define once again the terms. A talent is something that you have since you were born. So maybe, yes, training is useful, but I don't think that training hours and hours can improve so much our talent because it's something we have since we are born. So yes, training is important, but it's not so necessary. Talking about our summary, so my mate has said that children with talents have a positive impact because they learn that the talent isn't enough. They are engaged in with the public that judges them and. They have to link with the jury, so they have to be present. They have to learn how to make their feelings arrive to an audience. So talent isn't enough. They learn to live in a world. So what I am going to argument this day, my first assertion, is that psychological impact can be positive. Why? Because talent shows are basically a controlled space, are a microcosm, a little world in a smaller scale where children learn how to deal with if they lose, with failures, how to learn with by critics and to improve. And so they also learn that doing what they like and show off to the public is good, even if sometimes judges don't like their exhibition and so don't recognize their achievement. This is actually this obviously is no thank you. This actually is a thing that has to be taught by parents. But as we said, with a psychological test to parents, we can do it. It's not necessary to eliminate talent show. Instead, my second argument is that the talent shows are a controlled space where children are basically can show off their talent but are protected by the moral duty. The moral duty that many judges have because they are in front of a public. So they basically, the judges don't do too harsh criticism because the public audience cannot agree with them. So children can show off their talent, but they, for example, don't use to share their talents other means as a social media. They're much more dangerous because in talent shows they can be controlled, as we said, with contracts. They can be controlled by many other people. Instead, on social media, the critics and judgments are given for free. So, to resume what I said, our team line is that talent shows are good because they are a microcosm where children can learn. And as I said, we should allow children to participate in talent shows because they are a controlled space that can avoid them to go on other more dangerous spaces as social media because they can learn how to deal with failure, and if they win they can appreciate themselves. And then we have to make some psychological tests to understand if they are ready or not. These are our arguments. Thank you for listening to me.
Ok, il tempo è stato di 8 minuti precisi. Ringrazio Greta e diamo la parola a Marco.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I am the third speaker of the opposition team. To start with, it has been said by the opposition team that Talent shows are very positive since they can allow a growth for a child. And we agree with the opposition team up to one point. Certainly, talent shows can teach children some of the skills, but at the same time, we are convinced of the fact that talent shows represent a too rapid model of growth. Childhood itself is an age that should be devoted to such processes as constant learning, as constant grasping of new concepts, but in a gradual way, in a relaxed way, with pleasure. Whereas talent shows mean that the child undergoes a really stressing period. And more particularly, talent shows are very demanding from a mental point of view for all children. Indeed, many children find themselves involved in these harsh competitions, and in order to win and in order to satisfy their parents, they do everything they can in order to win. So it is certainly negative. And furthermore, talent shows, and the opposition team, the second speaker of the opposition team, has stated that talent shows represent a microcosm. But we think here there is a contradiction. As talent shows are a microcosm, they are quite far from reality. So children do not acquire real coping mechanisms that are adequate for everyday life. They just learn new tools to be appreciated by the public and by judges. And this is also another aspect of this growth. There is a too rapid growth, and such aspects as having to find support by the public or by the judges is very negative. It is something that is for adults. It should not concern children. It is extremely negative. Indeed, as my fellows, so the second speaker of my team was saying, and stress levels are so high that and there can be disruption in normal mental development of children. They might be fearful, and even when they are adult, and they might feel as they have already peaked. So they have already reached a very high level of performance, and they are not satisfied. Whatever they do, it is common indeed to see some child stars or child. Or some children that have taken part to talent shows who then find themselves unemployed. And this also links to the concept of education. And talent shows mean that children undergo several hours of training every day, possibly for many months, but since it is their talent for years and years. And in this way, not only time is taken away from their process of formal education, but also their main interest, their main goal is not one of school, but one of talent shows and their talents. This is true both for their parents and their children, and therefore, of course, children have really nothing to back up to in case these talent shows do not lead anywhere, and in case they are only child stars, child participants in talent shows, but then they are not really successful adults. Furthermore, I would like to say that the opposition teams proposed a model of psychological tests for both for parents or for children. But in this case, I want to underline that this is not really a feasible model. It should entail some experts in each talent show. But how could the psychological test determine whether a person is capable of dealing with the talent show properly? In fact, I think, and we all think that each family is convinced of the positive aspects of talent shows when they enroll their children to talent shows. But as competition goes on, as stress goes on, families and their children find themselves totally focused on how to be the others and how to be the best. And once again, these are not things that should be proper of childhood. They are part of a person's career when this person is 30, 40 years old, but not at 7 or 8 years old. And also, the opposition team talked about support by public that must be held by child performers. But also in this case, we believe that a child would be happy even without 1,000 or many thousand likes, but with just some appreciations and applauses by his relatives. At the same time, the opposition team stated that critics, so judges, are not very strict in talent shows, but this is not so. There are usually harsh panels of judges that are really severe with children, and of course unveil their possible weaknesses in front of the whole world. So this goes beyond the normal process of learning. Furthermore, I would like to state that exploitation is something that cannot be fully prevented with a contract. Even with safest of contracts, and the exploitation must even come from parents of the child. And we have some examples. Yes, please.
You have said that there is this form of exploitation, but in what way does exploitation create from talent show? I would like to have a clarification on this.
Well, yeah, thank you. And this exploitation takes place in a way that children are robbed from their earnings. And this was, for instance, the case of Macaulay Culkin, a very famous actor, the actor of Home Alone, Italian Mambo Personario, a film that is very well known. And this actor even sued his parents when he turned of age, when he was 18 years old, because he had been stole of much of his money earned as a child by his parents. But also this is the case of famous Jackie Coogan. Jackie Coogan was discovered by Charlie Chaplin during the 1920s. He was a very talented child, but he was stolen of most of his earnings by his parents. So on all, of course, talent shows are not protected for children. They are far from reality, and exploitation can come even from the closest person to the child, from his parents. Thank you very much for your attention.
Ok, il tempo è stato di 7 minuti e 50 secondi. Grazie Marco, e ora possiamo dare la parola all'ultimo discorso costruttivo fatto da Alessandra.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the third speaker of my team, and I'm going to complicate some of the things that the other team said, and summarize our main ideas that show us why we should let the kids participate in talent show. First of all, I would like to say that all the examples that you have provided us come from the world of acting, not the world of talent shows that is the central of our emotion. So yes, this is the world of acting, and it's different from the participation of talent shows because oh my god, because of the fact that there are different rules and people participate to talent show to show what they can do. While acting is different, it's a skill in a different world that is not in their emotion. And then I would like to analyze the fact that the talent show is a unique chance to showing up their talents. For example, if, as my teammates said, we have mentioned the Manskin. Without the talent shows, we wouldn't have Manskin because they wouldn't have the chance to show them. And when we talk about children, we talk about range from 0 and below 18. So even 16, it's considered as a children. So you should not allow even 16 years old to participate in talent show, even if they are grown up and they can decide to show their talents. And then you talked about exposition, and there are better ways to learn to deal with the world. but we have even worse exposition. For example, if I do not have a talent show where I can show my abilities, I have to go online. For example, I can do YouTube videos, but YouTube videos are not controlled as talent show because there are no contract, there is no television actually that actually control that. So there works exposition because talent shows are regulated and parents decide to let their kids participate that and help them during the process. And the other ways this is not possible, like I said, YouTube. There is no regulation and parents are not even aware of the fact that their child is showing a talent. Then I would like to point the attention on the skills that the positive aspect that we can have on participation at the talent shows, because you point the worst aspects, but there are some good too. For example, children learn how to deal with critiques because in life we don't receive just good, nice critiques. We receive very harsh critiques. If we learn how to deal with that very soon, we will advantage during life. And yes, in life you can't separate the talent from the presentation. Children learn that it's not important only the talent or your skill that you have, but you have to know how to present it. And you can do that only if you actually present it in a talent show. So you learn that it's not important to focus on your skill, but on your, for example, body language, on the charisma, on all these aspects that are outside the conception of talent. And I think that the answer of the problem you presented is not eliminating the talent show, eliminating the possibility of participating, but it's control the talent show. For example, we have presented an idea. This is a psychological test. I wanted to underline that because actually, as you said, there are scientific studies that show all the problems that are like anxiety or stuff like that. If we control, yes, please.
Could you tell me, please, which are the scientific studies?
No, I mentioned your scientific studies, the one you mentioned about anxiety and all the problems. We are presenting an idea. I think that scientists can make a test to understand if children and parents are ready to face this problem because there's, as you said, there are studies. Basing from them, you can prepare a test to understand if this if the child is ready. Thank you for your question, though. Then as I said, yeah, you talk about the word of acting. That is very different from what we were talking about because a talent show is something that is very, very important for our society because the status quo that we are living in actually help us to express even unconventional talents. If I do not have talent show, I can't present unconventional talents because I would not have the tool to do that. No, thank you. And imagine if we have a world without that. How can I express my talent if I do not have a connection? Or another point that I want to highlight is the fact that talents can be a career. And he talks about education. But if I want to make my talent my career, I have to focus and start working since I'm a kid. So I think that this is very, very helpful for people that decide to make their talents a career because they otherwise would have a way to enter in the business, for example, music or arts or any other talents that could be presented. So yes, these are the main points. And I will say, as I said, this is a way. Oh, thank you. This is a way to. This is a way to learn how to deal with consequences in life because in life, yes, life is harsh and we are not only judged by our talents, but how we present ourselves to the world. These are the main ideas of my team, and I also disagree with the ideas of education that is leave it alone because I think that we are talking about the choice of a parent that actually help want to the best for the children, because you presented only by cases, but I think there are so many parents that want the best for the children, and the talent show are the only way to actually reach it. And I think that education is important. If, of course, education is important, but you can also learn to manage things. For example, manage practice for your talent and studies. So yes, the skills that you can have from that are numbers. And yes, this is many ideas of our team. Talent show maybe is not a perfect word, but are the best way that we have to express every type of talents, the conventional and the unconventional one. Thank you everyone for their attention.
Grazie, il tempo è stato di 7 minuti e 35 secondi. Grazie Alessandra, e ora ci prepariamo per i 2 discorsi finali, partendo quindi dalla replica della squadra contro e quindi da Greta.
Okay, so now I'm going to start the reply of the against the opposition team to the motion that this house shouldn't allow the children to take part in talent shows, and we are going to underline our point of clash. So first of all, our point of clash was that the other team said the children need models and not criticism. And our team has said, well, criticism, because are regulated by moral duty of a public audience, so they are not too harsh, can make the child grow in a positive way. This is the other point of clash, because the other team said there's a too rapid model of growth. And we said, yes, it's true, but it's a positive model, because there are many psychological positive impacts on a children that takes part in talent shows that can help him, even from a young age, to be part of the world. The second is the education. So the other team has said that its talent shows don't allow children to be educated. And we said, and I think that our solution is better, because we said, yes, maybe it's not so... now on the status quo there are too many hours of training, but we said without eliminating the talent show, we can reduce the hour of training of a talent that is since the children is born. Then there's the thing that parents exploit their children, and we said the reason that the solution here is the psychological test to parents and to children, because if there is an expert that can say these children can manage with the criticism and can grow, and this parent is able to back his children, whatever the outcome is, we are sure that talent shows just become a play, a game where we can grow. So our solution, we think that is better, because without eliminating the thing, the talent shows, we are, however, offering a solution. Then fear conditioning, the other team has mentioned, and we said, well, psychological test can also help this outcome, because if children are not allowed to take part in talent show because they are fragile mind, they won't do it. However, there are many positive impacts. We said that there are even more than the negative ones. And then we wanted to present the two words that our teams have presented. So in the first word, there's a word without talent shows, so where children cannot express their talents and they just have to practice and they can't deal with the criticism, judgments. In the word that we presented, that is a word where children can express their talent. They are regularized and they are able to deal with the criticism. So thank you so much for your attention.
Grazie, il tempo è stato di 3 minuti e 45 secondi e adesso possiamo chiamare Antonio per l'ultimo discorso di questo dibattito.
Okay. I'm the reply for the proposition team, and I'm going to sum up the clash points and the two different words we have showed you during this debate. First of all, I'm going to say that our team, the proposition team, showed you the problems concerning talent shows, and so the struggling youth and the high level of responsibility that children have to suffer when they perform on a stage. The excessive anxiety that is produced in talent shows during the performance on stage, and several bad consequences generated by this anxiety and the problems of growth of these children during their growth, and the exploitation of parents, bringing you also evidences about all these topics. Therefore, the word we have showed you is a word of protection of children. Our value is the protection of children, and we want these children to grow with no problems. We want these children to grow with no anxiety disorders, and in a world where they can live their childhood completely. In fact, while the other team wanted to make these children lose this protection, they try to obtain some solution. For example, saying a contract, but as we showed you, the contract cannot protect children from anxiety, and moreover, they said that talent shows are a way through which children can express their own abilities, their own talent. But we must remember, as the other team said, that talent is something that will remain forever, because it is an ability that the children have from their birth. Therefore, if children are not allowed to take part in talent shows till they are 18 years old, this means that they will perform later if they really want and if they are aware of that. So if they are not forced by their parents, they will decide for themselves in the future, when they will become 18 years old, to participate to these talent shows. So we are, again, I repeat, we are not against talent shows. We are just in favor of the protection of children. In fact, I want to say that talent shows just produce more damage than benefits. And therefore, even if the other team told us about some of the benefits produced by talent shows, our team thinks that the damages, the downsides of talent shows are much more important, and they should be considered more. Of course, talent shows considering children. Therefore, I want to conclude saying that childhood is the best of all seasons of life, and therefore, the longer it lasts with happy memories, the stronger the emotional stability in adulthood. This is a quotation, and I think it can summarize perfectly this debate. So, do we want to ruin children forever? Do we want to make children live with anxiety disorders forever just for the enjoyment of adults? That's the end of this debate. Thank you for your attention.
Grazie, il tempo è stato di 3 minuti e 25 secondi. E detto